Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I am so excited to introduce you to my new friend, Kyle McDowell. We just figured out that we live in the same place.
Neighbors.
Didn't even know that. How fun is that? But he is lots of things. He's a speaker. He is a best-selling author. He's an entrepreneur. He's a leadership expert. He also believes in the power of we, and we're going to be talking a lot about that. He's an executive. He is a potential creator, and he is a self-proclaimed live music nerd. He has seen Pearl Jam 105 times, and he's a fitness nerd. He used to jump rope for over an hour a day, which in and of itself is impressive, but now he just really likes to sweat. And today he's our guest on Productive Joy. Welcome, Kyle.
Hey, Doctor. It's so good to be here with you, Dr. Christie. I appreciate the time and the opportunity. So grateful.
Yeah. We're going to have some fun. And the people listening are really just leaders who are looking to do it a little differently and to create some productive joy. So what would you say to them in like 30 seconds or less that would make them go, oh my gosh, this guy is somebody I need to have on my rotation?
Well, I'm a guy that spent nearly 30 years in corporate America, climbing to, arguably the highest of highs in some massive organizations. In the first 20 years, I did it in a way that I'm not entirely proud of. And I've discovered a better way that's changed my life and given me the chance to spread some of that information and some of my learnings and experiences to a much bigger population with my book now that's been out for a couple of years. So it's all about the better way. We don't have to hate our work environments. As a matter of fact, we should be able to thrive in them, but we have to approach it a little bit differently, I think.
Yeah. And that's actually where Productive Joy came from. So ChatGPT and I came up with it because I don't think that work and fun need to be mutually exclusive. And I think, unfortunately, we somehow get into that rhythm of, okay, I'm at work and I've got to work and I've got to grind. I'm not saying you don't have to grind, but you could enjoy it along the way. So let's back up. You're being humble because when you say some big organizations, you mean some big organizations. Like you've done some things, sir. So what took you from, okay, you're in high school, I'm going to go to college or I'm going to go work somewhere to I'm going to help others figure this work thing out?
I wish I had a better answer than I have more scars than I have answers. And by that, I mean, so when I entered the workplace, I was just out of high school. As a matter of fact, I interviewed for a role, and you might know this since we're neighbors, Barnett Bank. Do you remember Barnett Bank?
Yeah.
Regional bank in Florida for your audience. And I interviewed when I was 17. And I rolled the dice. If I were to get an offer, I was hoping it would come after my 18th birthday. It did. So I was fresh out of high school, entered the corporate ranks at a very early age. And like I'm sure every member of your audience, I was optimistic. I was eager. I wanted to make a big impact. I wanted to do big things. I wanted to make money, right? I always had aspirations of leading big organizations. And for some context, before I left the corporate world to write my book, I led about 30,000 people in my last two roles.
Wow.
Around the globe. So big operations, multi-billion-dollar P&Ls. And as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the conversation, the first 20 years of that was exclusively about me. It was about my accolades, my next title, the next promotion. It was all focused on me. And if I'm being completely transparent, it works. It can work, but it's not sustainable. And for me, it resulted in a tremendous amount of apathy, a divorce, not great health. I wasn't the fitness nerd that I am now. I wasn't a very happy person. And it was that kind of pivotal year or two period of my career that forced me to do some really deep self-reflection that I had never done before, never asked myself the hard questions. I thought I was being smart by asking my inner circle, my confidants, is this apathy that I'm feeling, is it unique? Am I the only one that feels this way? And Dr. Christie, the more senior you are in organizations, the funnier your jokes are. And the more likely people are to tell you what they think you want to hear, not what you need to hear.
Yeah.
And I needed to hear answers to questions that no one would give me. So I just kind of went into this cave, I guess metaphorically, to think through, am I having the impact that I wanted to have when I first started this journey back at 18? If my 9-year-old self were watching me, would he be proud of me? And then the ultimate filter I always use is my mother. My mother's been gone for more than a decade now, and she's still kind of like my litmus test. Would she be proud of the way I'm treating those around me? Or am I a tyrant banging my fist on the desk? And that bit of self-reflection, it started to force me to answer questions like, is there a better way? Has everybody had the corporate Kool-Aid and they just hate their roles as much as I do? And we just have to do it because that's what life's about. And I'm proud to say that that line of questioning forced me to confront the apathy I was dealing with and create a better life for myself inside the corporate world, which ultimately kind of changed my existence outside the corporate world as well. I was corporate Kyle for so many years, and outside of the workplace, I was kind of a different dude, which I think is the definition of inauthentic.
Yeah.
So it forced me to kind of reckon with some experiences of the past where we're all products of, how we were led early in our career. And I kind of perpetuated some bad leadership traits, but I have found a better way. And it's kind of my mission on this planet now is to evangelize that better way in hopes of people not experiencing the 20 years of a good run, but ended in a way that was, not ideal.
I am so impressed with you for recognizing what was happening and calling it at that point, right? So often we get in these loops by default.
Hamster wheel.
Yeah. And you're stuck there and you don't think there's an exit, but you took an exit. And then I think what's most impressive is you decided to turn that into a book so that other people could exit as well, right?
Actually, I didn't decide on the book. It was so a quick story. At this point of my career, it's probably year 21, year 22, and my apathy became so strong, I made a decision to step away. Now, I don't want to come across naive. I was a very lucky guy. I had a few bucks in the bank. I was able to press pause on my career to get myself together. And I told myself, not if, but when I go back into the fray, it had to be an environment that would allow me to lead in a way that I had never led. And it would allow me to be the leader I always wanted to be, but I was scared to be because my ego told me I have to be this know-it-all kind of what I say matters most, kind of do as I say, not as I do. And I was out of work for about 10 days. I guess it was 11 days when I got a phone call asking would I be interested in having conversations about joining a firm that would require me to lead about 15,000 people. It was a $7 billion program. And I sensed early in the interview process, this was the right place. It was the right opportunity for me. Now, I was terrified because I didn't know what that meant in terms of leading in a different way. I didn't know. I just knew that the recipe I had landed me with that tremendous apathy, and I had to do something different. About 60 days into the role, I asked the top 40 or 50 leaders of this new organization to join me, and it would be my chance to kind of set the tone for the journey ahead. And the old Kyle would approach that by saying, here's who I am, here's what I'm here to do, and here's why you should follow me, the whole Braveheart thing, right? But Dr. Christie, the night before, I was in my hotel room and I was terrified. I didn't know what I was going to say. I had no slides prepared. But I just knew I had to do something different. And it was that night I created the 10 We's, the principles that are the foundation for my book. And, they're principles that basically are observable behaviors that if we all align around these standards, if you will, we can't not be successful. We just can't not find excellence. To me, it was kind of a gamble. Fast forward a number of years later, the 10 We's took on a life of their own. They became the cultural manifesto of that organization. They include the 10 We's in each of their performance evaluations. They have the 10 We Awards. They're the birthplace of the 10 We bracelets that I still wear this many years later. But in terms of the book, though, I left that organization and took on a role of similar size and was there a year or so. And when I left that company, in a kind of a sour way, it was my team from the previous role that reached out and said, okay, big time, you're the guy that came here and changed this organization. Is that all you got? Like, are you really about this? And one of them called and said, when's your book coming? And I said, what book? I'm not writing a book. I'm not an author. And it was they challenged me and they pushed me and I'm grateful for that. And I still maintain connection with that group. I still have one-on-ones with a couple members of the team, but I'm grateful because they tell me, not my words, but they tell me the transformation that took place at that time in that organization still lasts. It's being sustained, but the connection that I made with them, the bonds that we formed have changed me in ways that are, I think, more powerful.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it all resulted in a book, but it wasn't by my doing, it was their urging.
I love that even more. You said a few things that I think we need to camp out on. The biggest one being, I'm picturing you in your hotel room doing something that you had done before, right? Like meaning you've addressed these large groups, you've been in charge, you had a way that you had done that, but you had this, I can't do it the way I've always done it and get the results I want moment. In that moment, I'm guessing you heard your mama a little bit saying, hey, Kyle, we can't keep down this path, right? So,
May I jump in right there?
yeah,
May I jump in
please.
right there? What you just said was exactly what went through my brain, and the way you said it. You said we can't keep doing this. So I don't mean to cut you off, but it's
No, it's
profound the way
perfect.
that's what went through my brain. Is I thought through. Of course, my mother was on my shoulder. She typically is, but I thought through really poor experiences with leaders or bosses, more likely in my past, that left me feeling less than valued. They left me
Mhm.
feeling as a means to an end rather than a valuable contributor to the end.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, well, we ain't going to do that here. That's not who we are. Likewise, I went through scenarios where I had 2 or 3 bosses, or I should call them leaders, who really inspired me and continue to inspire me to this day. And I thought, well, we're going to be like that. So just the way that you framed that and the way the words you used were exactly what went through my brain that night. We're going to do this. And then I thought, well, let me start typing. And then each of these sentences began with the word we. And I'm not incredibly creative, so I have the 10 we's. But I couldn't stop. I had to jump in and interrupt you because the way you framed it is exactly the way it went through my brain that evening.
I love that. And I love that you went with something people could remember and that you involved the humans because you can't do we. We is a collective, right? And so I think where my head goes, so I believe that people quit things that aren't fun, right? And so if we don't make work fun, people quit. But fun means different things to different people. And when I define fun, it means 3 things. It means that people feel valued and appreciated, that people have a voice and they're allowed to use it, and that people are able to leverage their talents for the greater good. And when I say people, I mean we, right? I mean all of us together. So it's clear that you figured out something that sticks with people years later when they came back to you and said, hey, dude, like, let's make this happen. So when people work with you, I am sure they feel some productive joy, but everybody gets their own definition. And this is your moment to shine, Kyle. Are you excited? Because
Always.
I need you to define your version of productive joy. If you had to define it, how would you define it?
I guess I would say it means you're aware of that your contribution matters, whether it's a contribution to a friendship, to a loving relationship with a spouse or a, boyfriend, girlfriend type thing, or your job. If you know your effort matters, you're not going to give less effort. And you know the connection of your work to the ultimate outcome that we're trying to deliver. And that could be any number of things. I say, if you're a barista, you still have an opportunity to provide joy. And that joy is reciprocated. It's, hey man, I hope this is just the jolt of energy you needed today.
Yeah.
Or I hope this is exactly what you were hoping to receive this morning when you stopped in. Like, we remember those experiences. We may not be able to recount them like days later, but it does provide us a little bit of giddy up. Now, that doesn't mean it's happiness or joy without effort.
Right.
It is called, when we're talking, if we're exclusively talking about the context of the workplace, yeah, it's called work. It's not called vacation. So that joy comes with responsibility, but it's very similar to all of our relationships as well. When I think of some of my best buds, the joy and what I would say describe as fun is not necessarily tossing back beers and watching a football game. It's hey man, what's going on with you? How's life? How'd that job interview that you told me about, how'd that go?
Yeah.
Did you consider this? Like, challenging each other throughout those conversations and just being invested in someone else's growth, not just your own.
Yeah.
And the secret that is so cliche, but it's true, is when you do make that decision to invest that energy, that joy, that fun into others, you receive it just the same.
Absolutely.
It's not one direction only. It works both ways.
I love that. And cliches and stereotypes exist for a reason. It's because they have a lot of truth to them, don't they? Yeah. Okay, so here's the tougher version of that question. So you've defined productive joy as those connections to outcomes and getting people to recognize that it is still work and it can be enjoyable. And that part's the choice. But how do you help people create it?
Well, I think we've got to first establish what it is we're trying to create.
Good.
And that was a gap that I never identified for a long, long time in my career. It's like I would show up as a leader and say, here are the numbers. You're here for a reason. You're capable of doing it. Now let's go get it. And I think that approach works, but it's finite. It establishes a finish line. And there's There is no finish line.
Right.
There's not. There's in our personal growth, our professional growth, our relationships, there's always opportunity to take on more, do more, find more joy, be more productive. So what I do, my approach is the metrics matter, but we're trying to create what I've coined a culture of excellence. But I had to define that because for us to establish anything, whether it's excellence or not, we have to have a target.
Yep.
And for me, when I paint this picture of this culture of excellence, which I've defined as an environment void of fear, rich in collaboration, where leaders and team members align on individual and professional goals. So what does all that mean? It means I care about what it is you're trying to do in your life, not just your career. If you want to go work somewhere else, I'm cool with that. Let's take advantage of this time we have together to put you in a position for the next role. You want my job? I want to talk to you about that as well.
Yeah.
Like I can't help you achieve anything if I don't know what makes you tick, what motivates and inspires you. And all of those, for the time we're together, will ladder up into the organizational goals. So the question is, how do we get people to see it and live it and do it? Is, well, we're going to create a culture of excellence together. Okay, that's the what. The how is the principles, the 10 W's. Now, by definition, a principle is a fundamental truth or a system for a chain of reasoning or a list of beliefs. And if you get a group of people to align around fundamental truths, we do the right thing, we say we're going to do, then we do it, we lead by example, we take action, all 10 of them, in my experience, it's nearly impossible not to find that excellence because it's less about me and more about how we lean into each other, what we need from each other, how we're going to behave to get to that point of excellence. And then own every step of the process between here and there, owning our mistakes, being open to challenge, and not settling for mediocrity. So once we establish the what, culture of excellence, I go into the how, and these are the observable behaviors. I never talk about the metrics at that point because it's all about if we're high functioning behind the scenes, those metrics take care of themselves and our customers feel it.
Well, you're a humans first leader at that point,
Amen.
right? You're working on not the bottom line, not the metrics, which is what so many organizations lead with. And you're leading with the humans to get to even higher metrics. I mean, I know you are seeing better results in teams that are using the we approach than those that are using the me approach, right?
Yeah. Well, it sounds, I have to be completely transparent with you. If I had heard this conversation earlier in my career, I would have tuned out.
I get it.
Because we're conditioned in many ways to approach our work from a very binary, black and white. This is the goal. You're going to get that goal or you're not going to work here. I don't mean to come across as if I'm a fluffy unicorns and rainbows type leader. We have goals. We have targets.
And jump ropes. Don't forget the jump ropes.
We have the jump ropes, right? For me, that was my sanity for many, many years until I couldn't do it anymore. But where I'm going here, though, is we all want to add value. We all want to be valued, and we all want to. If, in an ideal world, we can connect that value to those that consume it at the end of that process, whatever the process is. If it's the barista handing over the coffee, when we have an opportunity to see the joy that we provide in the product or service that we're associated with, we go right back to that add value piece because we want more of that. We're wired for it.
So you've run some big organizations, and in that job, I'm going to guess that you had different results prior to recognizing the power of we and post. And you also just said something that I think we need to lean into too, is that many leaders may see this as fluff, as the extra or the whatever, but no, I really need to focus my attention over here. How do you help people shift into the version of you that recognized the value of the people? Because that's my husband and I have a company called Intentionality Group. We do something similar where we're really trying to get people to build culture by design instead of default, and recognizing that this is the most expensive mistake that any leader will ever make, but people aren't willing to invest in the idea of the people. So how do you get them to go from old Kyle to new Kyle?
It's easier than you might. Well, I'll put it this way. It's very, very simple.
Yes.
But I don't know that I would say it's easy.
Those are two different things.
Absolutely, right? And I am never shy to say if you want to find greater fulfillment and reconnect with that desire for impact that you had so early in your career, by definition, you have to do something different. You have to, because otherwise you wouldn't be asking the questions. And what happens is this momentum snowball effect that must start with you, the leader. And that snowball and the momentum happens when your words and your actions as the leader are aligned. So if I'm espousing any particular type of culture or leadership approach, for me, it's the 10 W's, but I'm not living them, there's no trust. And no one's going to follow someone they don't trust. But what happens when they see you model that same behavior that you're demanding of them, and I do say demand because I don't mean it lightly. It's like, if you can't subscribe to these 10 principles, I don't know that I want you around anyway.
Right.
If you can't get down with we do the right thing, then you're probably not a good fit. When those words become less than words on a wall, or only words on a wall, they become a cliche. And, I think like less than 30% of all of corporate America can recite their company's values or mission statement.
Right.
Right. So I think there's this thing I call the lie of the mission statement, where we, as leaders, we assume or we hope that our employees, the team that we lead, will embody those values or embrace the mission statement, and we leave it to chance. But when this momentum starts in the actions, in the observable behaviors that you are requiring of them is seen first in you, fellowship naturally ensues. And I say, to build that level of trust that we're all chasing as leaders and as employees as well, members of teams, we want to trust our leader and vice versa. We need authenticity and relatability. I think authenticity plus relatability always equals trust. I can relate to you in that you got a life outside of this organization that I need to respect. You've got, maybe you have a sick kid at home, whatever it is. We all bring baggage to work, right? That's
absolutely.
Right. That's life. So when I can relate to that as your boss, instead of saying, the old Kyle would say, you got a sick kid, don't care. We got results to achieve. We got numbers to achieve.
Yeah.
Now the approach is, you got a sick kid. All right, well, what can we do to work around what you have to still maintain the excellence that we're all striving for? And that could include maybe a buddy from the team kind of picks up some of the slack for a moment. In other words, we need you for the long run. And this little hiccup in front of us is something that we're going to collectively, we number 6, we pick each other up.
Yeah.
My point is when the momentum starts and they see that your words and your actions are aligned, there's an obligation, even if not said, that I'm going to replay that and replicate that same level of action and word alignment that you're sharing with me.
Well, even in your example, you turned it into a we, right? So I have a sick kid, but we are going to solve that problem by me leaning into my teammates. And I think what's beautiful about what you do, Kyle, is it is simple and people can remember simple, but there is this thing called the knowing doing gap, right? Where people know better, but do they choose to do better? And I think what your book helps do is jump that gap, right? You're filling the gap for the leader and the lead learner to go from, okay, I know I should do this, but how do I do it? And that's what your 10 principles do. So how would people find this fabulous book and more about Kyle McDowell? I just said that wrong. Making up words now.
So I've been called worse. It's all good. So my book is Begin with We, 10 Principles for Building and Sustaining a Culture of Excellence. It's available wherever books are sold. I actually prefer the Audible version.
Did you narrate it?
I did. Yeah, I did. And I don't know. Anytime I can hear from the author, it just kind of hits differently for me. So
I narrated mine, and it was a really cool experience. It was humbling to say things out loud that I had written, and I thought, oh, that's pretty clever. Or, oh gosh, Christie, what were you thinking?
Oh, true, man. I can relate to that. I spent 7 days in a studio like the size of a bathroom stall, and it was the first time I'd ever read my book end to end, certainly aloud.
Same.
And it was like, maybe I would have said that a little differently, but it also allows us to offer different inflection and emphasis at different points that the reader may not do on their own. So, but anyway, the book's available wherever books are sold. I have to tell you, man, when I decided to write my book, I was like, if I sell 1,000 copies, I'd be over the moon, right? I figured I knew enough people who knew enough people that I could hit 1,000 copies. With January close, we're right around 50,000 books sold.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. And I don't share that as a flex or a look at me type thing. I say it because to me it proves there's an appetite for this better way, and there's a hunger for it. And as you just alluded to a moment ago, like we know, like simple and easy aren't the same. And we know what we need to do, but sometimes getting off that hamster wheel just long enough to ask the tough questions and say, okay, well, what do I need to do to reconnect with the fulfillment that I've lost, and to get rid of this apathy that so many of us feel. Yeah. We don't necessarily need to learn, we need to be reminded.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, my book is about alignment and reminding the role that the leader has and the awesome responsibility that comes with the authority they've been given.
And we all need that reminder, whether we've been doing this for 5 minutes, 5 years, or 50 years, we need to be reminded that there are certain things that are non-negotiable, and the humans are the non-negotiables. But so often we run into people that were like, oh gosh, I wouldn't work for you. Yeah. No, thank you. But there is a fix. And I'm so grateful that you have decided to put your fix into print and Audible, because ultimately we all need it. So guys, go get it. That's first and foremost. But Kyle, I know I could keep talking to you and enjoy every minute of it. And I also know people get bored. So would you be willing to answer some rapid fire questions for me?
Let's go.
Okay. Yeah. This will be fun, because my first question, actually, I think based on this conversation, you're going to enjoy answering all of these. But my first question is, what is your definition of fun?
I think it's a bit situational, because I can have a lot of fun in a very deep, sometimes awkward conversation, because I can have a chance to learn. There are times fun means I'm not going to think at all. I'm just going to stare at that sunset, and I'm going to purposely wipe everything that's going on in between my ears, right? So to me, it's situational, but it's almost, and it's, hear me out, because I think this might sound crass at first, but it's almost always about value.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like taking more than you're giving. I mean, both parties, whoever's involved, both or multiple, however many people are engaged in that situation or that scenario, we all find some kind of value. And that value doesn't have to be profound. It can be, I'm finding value in sitting next to you, doing whatever it is that we're doing. It can be, it's situational, but it is an intentional thing, I think, more than anything.
Intentional is the word that I'm going to camp out on that one for sure. Okay.
Let's light the campfire. I'm with you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Next question. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
Oh boy. So I'm big on this thing that I created called the mirror of truth. And the mirror of truth is basically a metaphor for that deep self-reflection, having the inside interior conversations. And my mirror of truth is, the metaphor for me is usually 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning with a cup of coffee, sometimes a book, sometimes I'm just doom scrolling. But that's the opportunity for me to ask a few questions. Am I behaving in ways that old mom will be proud of? Did I make good on my commitments from yesterday? And what can I do today to make yesterday a moment of the past, but a building block for the future? And it's asking those questions that allows me to, but you have to be willing to answer vulnerably as well. It's like, no, I was short with so-and-so yesterday. I probably need to reach out to them or just send them a text saying, hey, what's up? Hope everything's going well, right? You got to be willing to answer the tough questions. Am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. But my gauge for authenticity is taking the time to ask myself the questions. Was I being authentic? Was I being me? And if I'm not, did I own it?
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
So I have an expression that plays in my head a lot, and I don't want to offend your audience. It's 3 simple words, and it's F my feelings. F my feelings. And what do I mean by that? It's like, I don't really feel like having that awkward conversation where I'm going to have to share some bad news with somebody. F my feelings, because my feelings matter less than the outcome of that conversation.
Yep.
And the impact that we can have together from that conversation. And our feelings get in the way of, I don't feel like working out today. I don't feel like eating healthy today. I don't feel like having that difficult conversation. But on the other side of those feelings is usually a better place. So am I perfect at that? Absolutely not as well. But try to remind myself that my feelings are really less important than the outcomes I'm trying to achieve.
Well, we're never going to get perfect. That we're not reaching for perfection. Right. We're reaching for better, right? We're working towards getting better. And it sounds to me like you have cornered the market a little bit on how you can do that with some intentionality. All right, last question. This is not going to be easy, because I have a whole page. I'm a note taker. So for those looking, I have a whole page of things that I've written down that you said, Kyle, that are worth repeating. And by nature, people can only hold on to one major idea in a 30-minute time frame. So if you could leave our audience with one major thing, what's the thing you want to leave them with?
That's an easy one for me, Dr. Christie. There is a better way. There is a better way. I've found what I think to be the better way for me. And by this point, dozens of organizations and tens of thousands of readers. I encourage you to find your better way. And I'm happy to share my better way with you. That's the purpose of the book. But the point here is back to intentionality. If you want to find the better way, by definition, you have to do something different.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about, the intentionality of finding it.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is a better way.
You're convincing people that it's not okay to live in the default, that you have to
Right.
start designing your future.
Well
So
said.
many beautiful things. Kyle, thank you. Thank you because you could have been doing 97 other things, but you chose to share your brilliance with our Productive Joy audience. And I know they're going to walk away with things that they could use right away. So listeners, I hope you were paying attention. If you weren't, go back and listen again because it will be absolutely worth your time. You've got to shift to the we. It can't be about me because the longer you make it about yourself, the longer you're going to be stuck in the wrong version, that default version. It's about trust. It's simple, but not easy. And you need to go get this book. And then remember that you do kind of have to F your feelings and put those over here and focus on the realities of what you can influence. And listeners, I need you to do something because if you just listened and you got an idea or two, but you don't change practice, nothing changes. So today I need you to grab that nugget of wisdom and figure out a way to turn fun into action.